Well, unfortunately, we won't be able to see Ron Zappolo sans mustache right here, but we are going to bring him in on the. Oh no, there's a picture of Ron with the mustache. We've got behind us.
Yeah.
He doesn't have that mustache anymore. Let's go to the phone and bring in a longtime friend of mine and Woody's, Ron Zappolo, legendary sportscaster here in town. Spent a decade doing the news for Fox, Fox 31, and now still currently calls the play-by-play for the Broncos preseason games on 9 News. Hey, Ron.
Sure. And he's a legendary golfer. He's like a 7 handicap, and he plays every day of his life. So.
Retirement is good. Retirement is good.
Yeah.
I have no excuses.
How can a guy that has 14 children save money to retire?
I don't know. I haven't figured that out, but at least they're all past college, Woody. You know how that goes. So at least I have my own money now. I'm not spending on all the heirs to my fortune.
All right, so Ron, you're calling the game tomorrow night for 9 News, and have you had your production meetings yet with the coaches and players?
We just had it. We had from about 10:30 to 12:15. I can tell you this: Evan Mathis is a big, big man.
Yeah,
he is
6'5", over 300 pounds.
He's a big fella. I mean, we're all around big guys all our lives, but when he walked in, you go, my God.
And he looks like, based on his arrival here, that unlike some people, and Ron, I won't put you in a trick bag here, but Antonio Smith showed up like he hadn't been in a gym in 6 years. And Evan, you could tell, he's a guy that not only goes to the gym every day, but he owns it. He owns the gym in Arizona.
He owns the gym. It's Zone AP in Arizona. He said, please try to get that plug in tomorrow night if you can. He's an engaging guy. He owns the gym, and he says in the off season, all I do is work out in Scottsdale and hang out with my family, and I'm going to keep doing that until I quit. I asked him today, I said, I watched you in the walkthrough. You had a bunch of notes in front of you. He said, yeah, I was making the calls to see how I do. I said, are you up to speed? He goes, well, I'm a professional crammer. I've done it in high school and college, and I can do it now, and within 2 weeks from now, I will be 100% caught up.
Ron, tell me 3 things that you want to see tomorrow night that you're going to be concentrating on that as both an observer of the Broncos for so long, you and I together watching like 80 years worth of training camps, but what interests you about the game tomorrow night, given that it's the 3rd exhibition game?
Well, I'll give you a few things. Number one, I want to see Peyton Manning and Gary Kubiak's offense. I don't really think we saw that last week for a number of reasons, and I think that Manning will play at least a half tomorrow. I just talked to Gary, and he said he might even play more than a half, depending on what the play count is. It'll be strictly play count. It won't be how effective or ineffective we are. It'll be how many plays we get. And I think I want to see him meld what he does with the Gary Kubiak offense. We really didn't see that. The second thing I want to see, and I want to see how much the offensive line has made strides, even without Evan Mathis in there. Do they look like an offensive line that can get a team to the Super Bowl? And the third thing, I really think I want to see in general their special teams playing much better. They've been using a lot of different players. They've now settled on a kicker. I think that's interesting. They're gambling a little bit. And tomorrow night, you'll see Omar Bolden a little bit with the punts, but you're going to see Jordan Norwood return a lot of kicks. And I think Jordan Norwood, if you ask Kubiak, he's going to have to do something tomorrow night to make the team. So those are 3 things. I wouldn't say much on defense because I think defensively over the last 2 weeks, even if you're grading on the curve, you got to give them an A. So I think on the offensive side of the ball is where I'm going to be watching most of the time.
Sure. I'm just amazed because you and Les have combined for 150 years, and both of you keep talking to me about the punt returner. Like that's the most important thing in the whole world with a team. Am I missing?
Well, no.
I must be missing
not that
something.
It's the most important thing, but it is one of the weaknesses on this. I mean, if you were to ask somebody, give me a couple of places on this team that need improvement. One would be offensive line, and they went out and they resolved that with Evan Mathis. Another might be the depth on the defensive line, and then in the top 3, it's got to be punt return. They've been looking for a punt returner since Trindon Holiday left, right, Ron?
Yes, and the reason, if you don't, punt returns aren't important, Woody, unless you don't have one. And if you don't have one, it's a problem. And you saw in that first game, they shuffled through a couple of guys who couldn't catch a punt They released Solomon Patton today. That was one of the guys that tried. And you got to have somebody that's dependable. I think Omar Bolden is their fallback guy. They know he can catch it, but you have to, you can't afford on a playoff team not to be able to be confident that you can put somebody back there and he can at least catch the football.
You talked about concentrating on offense, and let me give you two names. Cody Latimer has not shown up. He has not shown up. He's not getting balls, but maybe he's not getting open. And Monte Ball, we don't know what the hell's going on with him. I assume you're going to spend a little time watching those two guys to see what they're going to develop.
I will. I think always Gary Kubiak, unlike John Fox, he actually does say things that for public consumption have merit. And look at just this week. The other day, he basically called out Cody Latimer. He said it's time to start making plays. Secondly, with Monte Ball, he also said the other day, I'm going to give Monte Ball and Capri Bibbs a long look. That tells me that Monte Ball, not so much Capri Bibbs, but Monte Ball is playing for a spot in the team. I mean, that's what it's come down to at this point.
Did he look slow to you the other night? I mean, it wasn't like he was running what he ran 3 or 4 times, but he doesn't look like he gets this offense.
He doesn't look like he hits the hole with the same speed that Ronnie Hillman and C.J. Anderson do. And I think this offense is set up for guys who make one cut and buck it up in there. And Monte Ball tends to bounce it, and he's not as quick as the other guys. And I think when you compare him to the other guys, yeah, he looks a little slower. But this is a point where, if you're not a great special teams player, and they get in those meetings, and he's the 3rd or 4th guy, you have to ask yourself, what role is he going to play on the team?
Ron, from what you can tell, do the coaches have any concern about the talent and the depth on the defensive line?
Yes. It's funny you mentioned that, Les, because at one point today, John Lynch was talking to Gary about that, and Gary said, we have tons of depth in the secondary. We have great depth at all the linebacker spots. We do not have good depth on the defensive line, especially when you consider that Derek Wolfe is going to miss a quarter of the season. I think it's a concern. I wouldn't be completely stunned if the final 53, there's a guy on the defensive line who maybe is not in camp right now.
I keep promoting a guy named Gerald Rivers, and nobody pays any attention to him. I guess even the coaches. But I find
giving him the kiss of death.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's talk about one other area that we thought there was depth in. They apparently don't, and that's at tight end. They went out and brought another tight end today, and that was a little bit of a surprising move.
Yes, it was, and that's very astute on your part, because I think that from day one in camp, they thought, well, we know that Owen Daniels and Virgil Green are set. Among Dominique Jones, Marcel Jensen, we'll find another guy. Well, they haven't found another guy. That's why they brought in Dale Murphy's son, and today they brought in this guy, Pat Light. I think they're looking, because in Gary Kubiak's offense, you guys know this, the tight ends are important, tight ends are big, and I think they're looking for a 3rd tight end, and the same deal, the 3rd tight end might not be on the roster.
Ron, Woody and I are wondering if you're going to grow the mustache back.
Maybe someday, not right at the moment, though. It's amazing how many questions I get about that.
Well, yep, it's because it's
public
the same
figure.
It's like me not wearing socks for all those years.
Yeah.
I want to be. My sources tell me, sources familiar with the thinking of both of you, that you guys are going to announce after the 3rd preseason game, that, as Les calls them, preseason games, that Ron Zappolo and Les Shapiro will be united on Channel 4 as the nighttime anchor team.
Maybe not on Channel 4, but maybe somewhere else. Ron, you up for it?
I'm up for it. I doubt the channel. I think Les is right.
Yeah.
Channel 4.
Yeah. I think Channel 4 is set. There might be some other stations in town that could use us, though.
I want to bring back the two of you, and then you can have me on as a guest once a week.
I appreciate the promotion. Hey, Zap, we'll be watching tomorrow night. You and John Lynch on 9 News. Kickoff at 7. When does coverage start?
Coverage starts at 6, and the kickoff is at 7. I appreciate you guys having me on. It's always good talking to you two guys.
All right, Ron. We'll talk to you soon.
I hope your view's better tomorrow night than it was last week.
That's Ron Zappolo. Time to go to the DPTV anchor desk. Let's do that. Check in with Molly Hughes.